Hey everybody, it's Erica B from Beyond the Bump, and I wanted to talk to you about inductions, augmentations, and spontaneous labor. So there are several ways you can have your baby vaginally. In a C-section, there's typically a few different ways, but you don't typically care as much. So you're pregnant. Now what? Me too. Look at this. Look at this belly. It's right there. He's crazy. And so on a personal tip, I will be induced here pretty soon for high blood pressure. And I personally prefer it that way because honestly, y'all, spontaneous labor scares the crap out of me. The idea of you just wait for something to happen, if you've done it this way, kudos to you, because how? Like, even with my first son, I showed up to a clinic and my blood pressure was really high. So they were like, oh, just come back tonight, we'll induce you. Great, because I can't stand the waiting game. I can't stand the is it time to go. I can't do it. So shout out to all you mamas who have had spontaneous labor where you're like, I'm gonna labor at home for a little while before I go in. I would want to know all the information. I need somebody to check me right now. I need to know if my water is broke. I need to know all these things. So for me and my mental health, and an induction is the best way to go for me personally. So what is the difference between these three methods of vaginal delivery? So spontaneous labor means just that. You went into labor one night or one day at your house. You started contracting. The contractions got stronger. They became every 2 to 3 minutes. You started having some bleeding and some mucousy discharge or something like that, which is all normal, part of the labor process. Maybe your pain went from a 2 to a 6 pretty quickly. You started having to breathe through contractions. You're unable to talk through them. That's spontaneous. Like, that literally happened out of the blue, so that makes it spontaneous. And so you come to the hospital at some point, or you have your baby at home at some point, or whatever, and you're like, oh yeah, I'm 8 centimeters. That's spontaneous. Like, whether you come in and have pain medication or not, whether you come in and have an epidural or not, that is spontaneous labor. There was not any medication given to you to make you contract. So that is literally what spontaneous labor is. Very cut and dry. An induction is also pretty cut and dry. An induction means that you went in and something happened to make you contract. That was not something your body was going to do that day. So you could have cervical ripening, which is more than likely what I will have. Means that you're not really dilated yet. So we're gonna soften your cervix with some medicine, either through an IV or mechanically with a Foley balloon, or with something that is inserted into the vagina, like Cervidil or Cytotec, misoprostol. Both of those are the same thing. Where we put it up at the cervix, and its job is to basically ripen the cervix, just to soften the cervix to get it ready for labor. And then, maybe you came in and you were already 2 centimeters, but you weren't contracting. We can start what's called Pitocin or oxytocin, which is a synthetic version of the hormone your brain makes when you go into spontaneous labor. So basically, we're just doing what your body could do, but it has decided not to do. Inductions are a little more controlled. So if you're like me and you're like, I just need to know what's going on, I need to know when this is happening. There are several reasons why people are induced. Sometimes it's just elective, so it's 39 weeks or later, and you're just like, I'm done. You can talk to your doctor and see if it would be a good idea to be induced, and that's based on a lot of different things. So if your doctor feels like, or your provider feels like it's okay for you to be induced, that you have what we call a favorable cervix, where it's like you would probably be able to deliver vaginally, based on all kinds of different factors, then you can be an induction electively. Or maybe you have, like I have, a high risk diagnosis like high blood pressure, diabetes, or low fluid for the baby, or twins, or there's so many different reasons that we can do what we call a medically necessary induction. And so you could be 36 weeks plus and be induced for that. Sometimes if you're really sick, then we can induce even earlier. It's just whatever's safest for you and baby, and you would probably see a high-risk doctor before that determination is made. So that would also still be considered an induction. So the third thing, which is a little more gray, is called augmentation. So let's say you start out in spontaneous labor. You are what we call blowing and going, and you have made cervical change. You've gone from 2 centimeters to 5 centimeters, and your body just said, you know what? I don't feel like it. I'm done. What? Yes, bodies do that. Sometimes people are meant to be in labor for days and weeks and months, and I'm sure that before all this modern technology, people were in labor for a really long time. You can come in, or you obviously would be in a facility somewhere, and we can give you a little oxytocin to augment you, which is basically to help you keep going. Usually you don't need as much as with an induction because your body was thinking about doing it and it just changed its mind. Another reason you would be augmented is if your water breaks but you're not contracting or you're not changing at all. Like, oh, I was at home, I woke up, everything was wet, my water was broken, I don't feel any pain, there's not a contraction happening. For the risk of infection, we would love for your baby to be born within 24 hours of your water being broken, because you can get what's called chorioamnionitis, also known as just chorio, which is an infection of the lining of the uterus. And so that can make baby sick, that can make you sick. We don't want either of those things happening, so we do try to get baby out within 24 hours of your water breaking. And that can typically, if you're not doing it on your own spontaneously, then we would do what's called an augmentation, meaning you need to deliver. It's medically necessary, but your body did something either by starting to contract and dilate or by having your water break, and that gave us a reason and an indication to help you continue that process. In all three of these scenarios, you're welcome to have the pain management option of your choice, whether that's breathing through them and doing it all natural, whether that's having IV pain medicine only, or whether that's having an epidural. All three of these vaginal delivery options will allow for you to have those things, as long as you don't come in crowning, in which case it might be too late. So those are the three different types of vaginal delivery starters, I guess: spontaneous labor, and induction or augmentation. If you have any questions or comments or need any clarification, feel free to list them below. I'm happy to answer or just have a conversation or just hear your story. Other than that, once again, it's Erica B from Beyond the Bone.